Hello and welcome. Today we're taking our creativity outdoors with some fun and easy outside DIY projects. Whether you have a big backyard or a cozy balcony, these projects are perfect for adding a personal touch to your outdoor space. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting, and let's get started. So I was walking through the Dollar Tree the other day and I found this adorable watering can, and I thought this would be a wonderful piece to flip to put on my deck. So we're going to start out by just removing that little red piece there and removing all of the stickers from our can. Next, I'm going to take my zip sander, and I'm using the 80 grit sandpaper that comes with it. And I'm just going to sand down the plastic so it'll be easier for the paint to adhere. And don't worry if you don't have a zip sander, you can just use 80 grit sandpaper or a sanding block. And if you'd like to know about the zip sander, I do have a link for it in my description box below. I thought I was going to spray paint this little watering can, and well, the spray paint had another idea. It stopped working after I spray painted that first piece, and I could not get it to start working again. So we're going to grab our Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and we're going to hand paint these, which will take a little bit longer than the spray paint, but it'll be just fine. But if you had spray paint, you could totally skip this step and spray paint everything. So I completely coated this watering can with one coat of paint. I am going to be going over it now with some Waverly chalk paint in the color Elephant. And I'm just using a round brush, and I'm going to tap that on, which will give it more of a textured look. And I'm going to do this around the whole entire watering can, including inside the watering can. But inside the watering can, I'll use a smaller brush just so it'll be easier to do. Once that paint is completely dry, I grab my sugar metallic paints, and I'm using the color Meteorite. And also I'm using the color Space Gray. So I'm using both different ones. And I'm taking a sponge brush and I'm just going to dab that around the flower pot just to give it some dimension and to make it look more rustic. Since I plan on using this outside, I grabbed my Rust-Oleum clear enamel and I'm going to give this a nice coat to seal everything in. So while that is drying, I have this piece of scrapbooking paper, and I did get this from Ben Franklin, and the brand for this paper is Photoplay, and the name is Herb Garden. So I'm gonna just cut out a small tag from this paper, and since I'm going to be planting some parsley, I'm cutting out the word parsley. Since I don't have a tag punch, I'm just gonna freehand this and make a little circle, or what looks kind of like a circle. And then I'll use a little hole punch and punch a hole at the top. Now let's put everything together. Let's grab our pot and let's replace the little strainer on the top of the pourer. And this should snap right back into place. And to attach the tag, I'm just going to use a small piece of jute twine, and we will just tie that right to the handle with a nice bow. And wow, this beautiful little pot is ready to display. You would never know this came from the Dollar Tree. This is so cute. I can't wait to put this out on our deck with some herbs in it. And I already planted some parsley, so I'm so excited to put this out there. If you're enjoying this content, please drop a sunshine below. So here's another fun find from the Dollar Tree, and I have not seen these before until I found this one just the other day at the Dollar Tree. And this is just a blank gnome, and I just started getting into gnomes a little bit. My husband really likes them, so we'll dedicate this project to my husband. For our first step, all I'm doing here is bending the piece of metal on the back side that attaches the stake, so that I can remove the stake from the gnome. And once you get the stake removed, I just bend the metal down so that I don't hurt myself. And don't worry about the back side of the gnome. It doesn't need to be perfect. We will be gluing this onto another piece, and we won't really see the back side of this. Next, we're going to place this on a paintable surface, and this is just a small piece of cardboard. And I like to keep extra cardboard in my craft room because it makes it easy when I'm trying to paint things. You might have noticed there, but I did use a small piece of painter's tape to tape the gnome down to the cardboard so that it doesn't move around much while I'm painting. So now we're going to paint this adorable gnome. And I'm starting out with Folk Art Multi-Surface Satin Black Licorice Paint. This is the only one that's a satin finish that I'm using. The rest of the paints I'm using are a combination of different apple barrel and folk art paints, and all of them have a matte sheen. And what I'll do for this video is I'm going to leave a list of all the different colors that I'm using and the brand in the description box below. So that way, if you have a question or if you really like one of the colors, you can look for the answer right there. So while we're painting our cute little gnome, I want to tell you all about this outdoor decor playlist I'm a part of. This is hosted by Brenda at Rustic and Lace DIYs and Krista at Krista's Crafty Life. These two ladies are amazing. They host this playlist every month on the first of the month and allow other creators to join in and add their videos to the playlist. So if you'd like to see all of these other wonderful creators, there's a link in my description box below for the playlist and a link for Brenda and for Krista. So please check them out and give them some love. Thanks! So now that we have our gnome painted, I am going to go ahead and grab one of these beautiful napkins. And we're going to prep this so that we can use a small piece to decoupage. So to do this, we're just going to remove the back two layers of the napkin. And I found using a little piece of painter's tape works really well to remove those layers. Next, I grab water and a little paintbrush, and we're just going to paint around the flowers that we want to use for decoupaging. And once you've done that, very carefully, you're just going to take your fingers and tear around where the wet part of the napkin is. Next, I do a quick fit check to make sure it's going to fit on the little watering can. And once I'm satisfied with the size of the piece of napkin, I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and I'm using the matte finish Mod Podge for this. And we're just going to coat a layer of Mod Podge on top of that little watering can. Next, I'm going to lay that napkin right on top of the Mod Podge while it is still wet. And using a small piece of cling wrap, I'm going to tap the napkin down to remove any wrinkles. Once that is completely dry, I do take my Mod Podge and do a little light coat over the top to seal everything in. Since this gnome is going to be used outside, I decided to use my Rust-Oleum clear enamel, and I'm going to spray a coat over the top to seal everything in. Now I'm going to put all of the elements together. I found this pot at the Dollar Tree in the nautical section, and I thought this was a perfect size for this gnome. And what we're going to do here is I grabbed my stash of beads out, and I grabbed 4 beads that were already painted. And these beads I did get on Amazon, so I'll put a link in my description box below for those. And what we're going to do here is we'll flip the pot over, and using some hot glue, we're going to hot glue the beads at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And these will make perfect little legs for our pot. And before we attach the gnome, we want to make sure we flip the pot over and do a fit check to make sure we know where the gnome hits so the feet look like they're touching the ground. Next, we're going to grab our E6000 and I add a little bit of that glue to the pot itself. Now grab your hot glue and put a little bit of hot glue on the gnome. These two are now ready to become a sandwich. So put them together, and then using your pink clips, we'll go ahead and clip those into place and let that sit for about an hour. Now, time to remove those clips and put some flowers in there. And what I found helpful was using this starter pots from the Dollar Tree, and they come in a 6-pack and they fit perfectly inside this pot. And that's what I planted my flowers in. And here is our adorable gnome, all ready to go to be placed outside on the deck. I love how this gnome turned out. I think my husband's gonna like it as well. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I found this great piece of wood at the thrift store the other day. And looking on the back of it, it is a 14-inch piece of wood, and they said it was for a clock. Well, we're going to do something different with it. It's a really nice, heavy piece of wood, and I like that there's already a hole drilled in it. So after removing the stickers, I took some flat black paint that I had, and I just spray painted both sides. To seal everything in, I'm using Rust-Oleum Clear Semi-Gloss, and I'm going to do this on both sides of the piece of wood. So I've had these decorative knobs in my stash for quite a while, and they were from the Dollar Tree. And what we're going to do is we're going to add that to the top of this little piece of wood. So with the hole already drilled in there, we're just going to screw this little knob into the wood. And now that this piece of wood is all put together, we're going to take this outside. I went to Walmart looking for a pot that would work with this piece of wood, and I found this one, and it worked out perfectly. It's really tall, and the piece of wood fits on top of it so nicely. And this will make a perfect little side table where you can have your drinks, or if you open up this little pot, you can stick blankets in here for storage or ice, and then have all of your beverages nice and cold while you're sitting by the fire. I thrifted this pot out of my yard. I'm going to go ahead and give this a really good scrubbing with Dawn Power Wash. Now let's jump in and transform this pot. I am going to be using some of this folk art plastic paint, and I'm using the color Coffee Creamer and Espresso. And I'm only going to be using these two colors for me, but you could totally do whatever colors you'd like. To start out, I am going to be mixing the coffee creamer and the espresso together, and I'm using more of the lighter color and just a little bit of that espresso in there to mix up a nice tannish color for our pot. And I'm going to completely coat this pot with this color. I really want to get rid of the orange because I'm trying to match this with two other pots that I have on my deck. Now, one thing to note with this pot, it had some ridges underneath the lid of the pot. So for my painting and blending later on, I only coated that bottom rim with this first coat of paint. And I did a really good job with that in those little holes, because once you did that one time, you did not want to do that again. And you're not going to really see it. You just didn't want that orange to show through. And for the inside of the pot, we're just going to do the inner rim. I'm going to take this pot outside and show it to you next to the pot I'm trying to match it up with, so you can kind of see what we're trying to do. And I want the smaller pot to be on that little table. So now I need to do some blending. And I found this adorable sponge over in the health and beauty section of the Dollar Tree, and I thought this would be wonderful to use for painting. So we're going to use this sponge with the coffee creamer paint and just sponge over the whole entire outside of this pot. And once that has dried, I am going to take these same two paints again, and I'm using the more espresso this time than coffee creamer. So I want to say it's almost a 50-50, but I think it's just a little bit less of that coffee creamer. And I want to get that darker brown edge on this. And to apply this paint, we're going to use a sponge brush. And here is what it's looking like right now. I thought this was just a little bit too stark of an edge on this. So we are going to take that same sponge brush and just a little bit of that coffee creamer and blend in the top layer into the bottom layer just to kind of make it look like it goes together. Here is where I stopped. I just kind of left it alone for a little bit and let this completely dry. Now that it is dry, I'm taking it outside and I'm using some semi-gloss clear Rust-Oleum to coat the whole entire plastic pot. And here is what it looks like when it is completely dry. I love how this turns out. This is going to be a great addition to my deck. I hope this inspires you to thrift in your yard and find something old and make it new again. And there you have it, 4 beautiful DIYs that you can use in your yard or on your deck. I hope you enjoyed these crafts as much as I did today. If you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out this next video. It is all about crafting and thrifting in your yard. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit this notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.